Hello everyone and welcome to the deck profile for the deck that carried us here to Diamond for this season, and it actually carried us there by accident. We were just trying to record games to try and get a video out about this deck because it is such a fun one, and we accidentally got to Diamond. But it just performed extremely well. I do think the original Thunder Dragon deck is better than one we have on the channel before this one, but revisiting it here with Invoked, again, very solid performance. Again, we destroying loads of top games in the meta, destroying Tri-Brigades, destroying Sword Souls, all sorts of stuff, all in this video here. So very powerful deck. We're not just sort of winging it, we know exactly what we're doing. The Thunder Dragon aspect of the deck remains unchanged from the last video, so I will recap it all at the end with quite a much more detailed breakdown of it towards the end. I'm not going to do that right now. The differences are the inclusion of the Invoked engine, primarily for the summon of Makaba. If you summon Makaba earlier into your combo, you can prevent them from hitting with Nibiru, which allows you to extend even further. Or you can factor it into your end board after link summoning in the Union Carrier to get an additional monster on board afterwards and take full advantage of all of the cards you have at your disposal. So ultimately it can add basically it adds another tier to the ceiling, but it does take slightly from the consistency of the deck. But the Thunder Dragons are already frighteningly consistent, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. But yeah, I'm just going to cut this little profile of it short here. Again, as I said, at the end of the video, I do cover it off, almost sort of card by card, not quite, because a lot of it is self-explanatory, but there is a much more detailed breakdown of it towards the end of the video. For now, we're just going to get straight into game number one, and we're going to see this new mix of it in action in our climb to Diamond. So, on with game number one. Okay, getting into game one here, our opponent's going to go first, but they're just going to sit 3 and pass. So we've got the contend with 2 back row and a face down monster, so we don't really know what we're dealing with just yet. We're going to normal summon our Alistair the Invoker, who would have searched for Invocation. He's going to get negated. Get used to seeing that your opponent at first sight is going to negate Alistair the Invoker every time, so get used to that. We're going to use Ready Fusion here to summon a Kaminari attack to our field. This is another very powerful way of instigating the Thunder Dragon combo I was just talking about. So when you have Kaminari attack on field, you can banish it and one of your Thunders in hand to special summon a Thunder Dragon Titan. That means that Ready Fusion and Instant Fusion are two additional ways, of proccing the Thunder Dragon Roar, because you summon out Titan by banishing the Roar from hand. So that's extremely powerful. That's probably the most powerful way of doing it. That triggers the effect of Roar to summon Dark from deck. We discard a Thunder Dragon because every time we use a Thunder effect in hand, Titan gets to destroy a card on our opponent's field without targeting. So we pop the back row. It was a Droplet. Droplet is really strong against this deck. We're going to use our second Thunder Dragon here to get a second pop. So that's what makes Thunder Dragon so powerful in this deck. It fills up your graveyard, it adds consistency to your combos, its materials, and it is that double pop of Titan. So we're going to go in the Union Carrier here using Alistair and our Dark. Dark, when sent to the graveyard, will search Hawk. This is the standard bread and butter combo here. Hawk is going to resummon the banished Roar, and we're going to sacrifice that for Colossus. So on the turn where you've used a Thunder effect monster in hand, you can sacrifice a Thunder monster on field to special summon Colossus from the extra deck, so extremely easy to summon then, and that's our sort of bread and butter combo. Banish the Roar to summon the Dark, send the Dark to search the Hawk, use the Hawk to grab one of your Thunders back, then sacrifice it for Colossus. That's it. It's like a 3-step combo, 4-step combo really, to summon out the Colossus to field. Usually doing that combo, you're also going to find yourself with the materials for a Union Carrier. If you have the ability to normal summon something in addition to those plays, you'll almost always end with a Union Carrier too. So whenever you summon the Dark out, you would normal summon a Matrix, normal summon Alistair, normal summon Lupine, whatever it is you have in hand, whatever it is you have available to you. You would use those to go in the Union Carrier to trigger the Dark, and then you do the rest of the combo. And by doing it like that, by grabbing a Union Carrier, you're able to equip onto the Colossus the Dragon Buster Destruction Sword. So while this is face up, your opponent cannot touch their extra deck, and that is so powerful right now. So we're going to swing for a whole load of damage. We're going to end our turn here So what is this field? This is your sort of bread and butter field. You would also like to have a Macabre, but that's not necessary. If they didn't imperm our Alistair, we would also have had a Macabre here. So that's good. That's important to know. The only reason we don't have a Macabre is because we got impermed, which, you know, you have to expect some level of interruption. You can't expect your combo to go through every single time, and that's part of why I love Thunder Dragons, because it's such a versatile deck. So what if we got on board? He cannot search his deck for cards. He can only add cards from his deck to his hand by drawing them. He cannot use his extra deck at all. He can't touch his extra deck. So for heroes, and it looks like we're playing against heroes, for heroes that's game over. He can't do anything unless he manages to get like a Stratos double pop. And then with Titan, we have a quick draw destruction. So this guy can be discarded from your hand, quick play, to add another Thunder Dragon Dark to hand. That will trigger your Titan. We get a pop. That can be used on both players' turns. So that's fantastic. And we also have Maxi. Just because, why not? So extremely, extremely powerful board here. Our opponent pretty quickly realizes that there's no playing through that. So yeah, he scoops it up then. There was no way Heroes is going to be able to play through. The extra deck lock by itself is amazingly detrimental. Everything else on top of that was just overkill. It was just brutal. Now, of course, our opponent opened up a little bit weak there. He had the impermanent droplet. He didn't use the droplet for some reason. Maybe he just couldn't afford the materials for it. Who knows? Ultimately, it wouldn't have made a massive difference. But yeah, extremely powerful board, extremely powerful deck. And that was basically just Thunder Dragons. Like, that wasn't even with the Alistair mix. They negated the Alistair mix. So this gives you a solid idea of what the original deck did and what this deck aims to do consistently. The Alistair package, again, this is Invoked Thunder Dragons, but Invoked is purely a side engine that you go into when you can. You do not try to put yourself in a position where you're forcing it out. Otherwise, you're just going to misplay. It's going to cause nothing but issues. So Alistair the Invoker is there for when it's possible. But this duel, this is a demonstration of your bread and butter. So pay attention to that. If you're going to learn to play Thunder Dragons, learn to play that combo, learn to play that series of plays. Again, the other video breaks it down a lot better, has cool diagrams and everything. That's all neat. But yes, learn that. Let's get into game number 2 then, where we get a little bit more action from our Invoker then. Okay, game 2. This was basically our promotion match into Diamond. It was technically our second last match, but the last one was basically an insta-scoop. So this time we're going up against Tri-Brigades. He's going to use Kit here to try and send Nerval to Grave. I ash this because it's basically the same thing as ashing a Nerval, except he gets less materials in Grave, just in case he happened to be able to extend in their Karas or something. But of course he top decks the Fusion Destiny, so why would that even matter? He just summons out his DPE and defense and passes turn, because that's totally a fair card. We use our Thunder Dragon here, and normally Thunder Dragon is complete, like, I would like to call this card Ashbait. It's not Ashbait because nobody ashes it. It does nothing. It's only searching for another Thunder Dragon. For some reason he ashed it, and in this particular hand we really needed this to resolve, so it gets negated and we don't have our Thunder Dragons. So the reason we really need it to resolve is because we need DPE to use its effect before we can use Meltdown. That's it. So we can't use Meltdown until DPE is gone. For DPE to be gone, we need to go into our Thunder Dragon plays to force him to use its effect. So we wanted Light in a Dark and Grave. We wanted to fill up our graveyard with our Thunder Dragon so we could use our Thunder Dragon Fusion. But obviously that didn't pan out. So we're going to have to try something else. We discard our Roar instead of banishing it to add the Thunder Dragon back. That's how important this play is. We sacrifice the Roar banish effect. Then we get discarding with our Thunder Dragons. We want them in the graveyard. We banish a Light and Dark to summon out Duo. This is when he pops, and this is what we needed him to do. So the reason he popped there is because we discarded the Thunder Dragons, meaning that Duo could have been turned into Colossus. Colossus cannot be destroyed by battle or effects. So our opponent didn't want to wait on that just for his DP to be useless. We would have been able to basically swing into it with the Colossus anyway, so he needed to stop that play before it went any further. So fair play, he clicked on that pretty quickly. But now that that destruction is gone, we can go in for our magical Meltdown. We search for Alistair, we summon Alistair, no negates, so fantastic. We get our Invocation. we link summon into Artemis. Artemis is purely here so that you can make your Alistair into a 1-card Macabre, because you would link summon it off into the grave for Artemis. Then your invocation could banish the Artemis and the Alistair to go into Macabre. So it's like a 1-card Macabre at that point, but we're not using it like that. We're going to banish it and a Thunder Dragon to summon the Invoked Macabre, purely because our Thunder Dragon Fusion can return banished cards back to deck to fusion summon. So we don't mind banishing extra materials. We use Invocation to add Alistair back to hand. We shuffle back Aurora and one of our Thunder Dragons from the banish pile to summon the Colossus. Colossus is big enough to get over the DPE. When he activates DPE in grave, we discard the Thunder Dragon to negate. When the Invoked Macabre negates, it also banishes, so that's DPE gone for good. He can't revive it or anything like that, so we're going to swing in now for an additional 3,300 damage, and we're going to pass there. So we're looking good. Honestly, we really sort of play through that quite well. He's going to use Dasher here. Dasher's going to attempt to summon Karas. We negate the Dasher. The reason we negate the Dasher is because this turns off 3 effects. 1, it stops the summon of the Karas. 2, it stops the Dasher. And 3, he no longer has 2 Destiny Heroes in graveyard, so he cannot use his Celestial. So we don't need to wait on the Celestial. So that's perfect. We negated basically 3 plays there in that one negate. He goes for Harpy's Feather Duster, which I was really happy about, because that's just one less card in his hand to combo with. He summons his Karas, he sets one face down, he swings in the Artemis, we don't really care about that, and then he passes turn. So we're going to draw here. We draw in the Thunder Dragon Matrix. We're going to use Fusion in the graveyard. It's going to banish the search for Aurora. Aurora's going to activate to discard to add back the Fusion. So that's like an infinite loop. So on the turn after you use Thunder Dragon Fusion, it can banish itself to search for a Thunder Dragon. Thunder Dragon Roar can discard itself to add a banished Thunder Dragon card back to your hand, or one from the graveyard. So that's just like an infinite loop of fusion summoning, so that's good to know as well. You can forever just re-summon your Titans, re-summon your Colossus, especially because if they manage to deal with Titan, you just shuffle it back to summon your second Titan. So it's basically an endless loop. So we activate our Matrix. We're just boosting up for lethal here. We activate Matrix to boost up Colossus. That triggers Titan to pop a card. We're going to swing in here for 2k. He activates Almirage in the graveyard, but it doesn't matter. It's got 0 attack. Swing in for 25. Swing in for 31. And this was us basically promoted up to Diamond. Technically, this was the game before, but the last game was awful. As soon as he realized we were comboing off, he scooped. So yes, there we go. Again, playing against top tier Tri-Brigade Zodiac with the Fusion Destiny top deck. So what won us that game? Very, very well timed negates. So, and I know it didn't seem well timed because it was just, it was very much monkey click. It was just at the first opportunity you click it, but you needed to think of the implications of them. We negated the kit at the very beginning because the kit would have sent Nerval. If he sent Nerval, we were just going to end up ashing it instead. But then he would have 2 monsters in grave instead of just 1, so if he was able to summon a Karas from hand, well then you're out of luck anyway. Why give them more materials? So yes, the Ash on the kit at the beginning was a good play. I will stand by it. It would only have been a bad play if he had Fractal in hand, and I refuse to believe he would have normal summoned the kit and gone into Almirage if he had a Fractal in hand. He would have used Fractal first. So I was pretty confident he wouldn't have had any follow-up for that, but he did with the Fusion Destiny, so what do I know? Negating the DPE in the graveyard, negating the Dasher in the graveyard, all very, very key and instrumental negates. So yeah, 100%. Again, very, very solid showing. This shows what the Alistair engine adds to the deck. It adds that extra layer of power. Yes, it can be a little bit more inconsistent, but that extra layer of power, because Thunder Dragons by itself, once you know how to play it, is a super, super consistent deck. You don't need more consistency. The only thing you're really getting from dropping Alistair is like more hand traps or DPE. That's it. So it is definitely a very, very viable engine. This was my favorite way of playing the deck before Baron de Fleur came out. Since then, it hasn't gotten much in the way of support, so it's maybe not as good as the pure version now. But listen, I'm rambling. That was a very, very good game number 2. Let's get into game number 3 then. Okay, game number 3, and we actually go first this time, and not because of what you think. No, we did not manage to win a coin toss. That's completely off the table for us. We're going to go straight into our standard plays here. We're going to use Matrix as material for our Colossus. We didn't have really very much ways of getting the most out of it. We go into our Kaminari attack, we use it and Roar to grab our Titan. We probably could have done that first. It might have extended us a little bit further, but you know what, it is what it is. We add the Hawk, it returns the hand in the end phase so that we can use it again next turn, but we're still looking pretty good. He Feather Dusters our Super Poly away, so that in this matchup could be pretty good, pretty bad. He imperms our Colossus. At this stage, I'm thinking, alright, it's game over. The only thing we really have left is one or two pops here with our Titan, so he goes for the field spell. Once he activates the effect to send the calling, that's when we go to destroy it, but he has the Gamma in hand, so he's going to negate the Matrix. And the thing about, so the biggest counter to Titan is it can be chain link blocked. So if you activate your Thunder effect, it gives your opponent the chance to activate something first before you get to activate Titan to pop, and if they do activate something, then Titan doesn't even get the chance to activate. It's chain link blocked because it's a when effect. So when he activates his Gamma, the last action in that chain is no longer the activation of a Thunder effect, therefore Titan doesn't get to activate, so we need to chain the Dark. Now that the Dark is the last thing to activate, we can then chain the Titan to go one step further, so we do end up getting our opportunity to destroy this field spell before it gets the chance to resolve, and that was very, very important, because if we didn't, it was game over. This is a very good showing of how this deck needs, how you should play the deck going up against Numerons, and the power of Titan, and especially in this matchup with that sort of face-up destruction. He's going to go into Gamma here, and Omega, and this was amazing. He uses Omega to banish a card in our hand. He banishes the Hawk. Hawk's effect will activate to shuffle Dark back into deck. Dark was useless. We already used its effect. It's a dead card, so I thought we might as well try our luck. We rip into a Ash Blossom. He goes for the Pathfinder. We use the Ash Blossom he just gave us to negate his Pathfinder, and our opponent pretty much picks up his router and throws it out the window. He's had enough. He's uninstalling the game. He gave us that Ash, which was the best part about that game, to be fair. But that's a very, very good game for showing the weakness of Titan, but also the power of Titan in that matchup. Numerons is one of those decks that whenever you're building a deck, you don't think, oh, I need a counter for Numerons. And whenever you come across it, it's that deck that you either instantly win against or instantly lose against. There's no in between. There's never any in between. So being able to have an innate way of countering it, a couple of innate ways of countering it, because you have the Buster Lock. If you're able to do the Buster Lock, which I believe we did have the ability to do there, I just think I may have misplayed. He ended up having Imperm anyway, so it may not have worked regardless. So your Buster Lock counters Numerons, and your Titan counters Numerons, and your Colossus really slows down their consistency because they can't use Pathfinder, they can't use Terraforming, they can't use their Numeron Wall. That's why he needed to imperm our Colossus so he could search for the field spell. So Thunder Dragons has honestly a very good matchup against these guys, especially considering if they don't manage to negate your Colossus, not only can they not search for cards, he can't be destroyed by battle. So they're just going to swing into a defense position monster and do nothing. It's not going to have any impact. They may destroy it after like the 4th battle, but you just banish a Thunder monster from graveyard every time to protect it. So they couldn't have won even if we didn't stop the summon. So again, it's one of those matchups you don't see very often, but whenever you do see it, it's an absolute headache. So having an innate way, a deck basically built in a way that counters it quite easily is very nice. So that's game number 3. Let's move in then to our last game of the video to conclude our diamond run with Thunder Dragon Invoked. So on to game number 4. And here we are with game number 4, and we're going second yet again. That's right, not a single coin toss victory in any of these games. So you can't say I'm cherry picking here. We're just getting what's dealt to us. Our opponent here is immediately going to win the Baron de Fleur, so that's just delightful. Again, I can't complain about seeing Sword Souls considering I've got what, 2 or 3 videos up about them at this stage. So our opponent goes into Baron de Fleur and Drag Out. The tie here is going to activate the same way you did Graveyard, I'm assuming for follow-up next turn, and he ends there. So our opponent has an Omni Negate and the ability to negate a spell or trap, so we need to play this very carefully. We're going to go for Thunder Dragon. and yet again, it catches an Ash. And in this particular game, I wasn't really sure how to feel about that. I would really like to have had the materials for the Ready Fusion play, but take what you can get. We use our Thunder Dragon Matrix, Lupine will banish the Matrix and Roar. Activate Roar as Chainlink 1 and Matrix as Chainlink 2, so we can't negate the Roar. So we add a Matrix to hand off of the other Matrix. Roar will summon Dark. We use these two to go into Predaplant Verte Anaconda. Now we're not going to use its effect just yet. We're going to use Dark to add Hawk first. We're going to use Hawk, discard to special summon the Roar back to the field, tribute the Roar, then we go in the Colossus. So our opponent hasn't negated anything in this combo just yet because I don't think he fears the Colossus like he should. We activate Instant Fusion. Now our opponent's afraid because they can deal with Colossus. It's small. They can't deal with Titan. It's huge. So they negate the Instant Fusion. They negate the Ready Fusion. They do not want to see a Titan because Titan is simply too big for them. So they negate both of those, which is a pain, but honestly, it was bait. We're going to use Verte Anaconda. This is why we summoned the Anaconda instead of the Union Carrier, because we knew this was going to happen. We knew he was going to negate the fusion spell cards because they're such a big threat. So we wanted those gone so we could use the Predaplant Verte Anaconda. The reason we wanted to use those first is because 1, they don't lock you out of special summoning for the rest of the turn, and 2, not only in this situation do we get the summoning of the Titan, but we also get the ability to send Thunder Dragon Fusion to the graveyard so that next turn we can banish it from our grave to search for a card so we can begin our resource loop. So that's super important. We swing our Verte Anaconda into the Dragite. The reason we do that is specifically to counter the Draco Berserker. So if he had a summon Draco Berserker on the follow-up turn, swing it into our Verte Anaconda, we would have taken 25. He would have boosted himself up and been able to swing into our Colossus as well for game. We couldn't really afford that risk. I know it seemed a bit risky there, but if he had have summoned the Draco Berserker, we would have instantly lost. So we take out the Dragite then with our Titan. We were still in a rough position here with the Colossus, but we did have a counterplay with the Titan. He's going to try and bounce back with Baron de Fleur to resummon the Dragite actually from the graveyard, I believe it was, which we didn't really want happening. So at this stage, we decide to chain our Titan, chain Matrix and then chain Titan to Matrix. Matrix was our counterplay to Baron just swinging because we can boost up by 500, so we're too big. He just has to set a card and pass. He doesn't have a way. That deck doesn't play a lot of monsters that can just get over these guys. The only real one that springs to mind would be the Supreme Sovereign. So we're going to use Hawk here to resummon a monster. And again, Hawk triggers the Titan. Titan gets popping. So that destroys his face down, and it basically just summons a monster big enough to get lethal. So that's 32, 31, and 15. That's game. It's as simple as that. So that is us shutting down the turn 1 Sword Souls, going into Dragite and Baron de Fleur. So it's not as if they bricked or anything like that. But smart plays, smart negates, that sort of... A lot of people are playing Sword Souls, but not a lot of people are really playing Sword Souls. There's a lot of people on the ladder who don't quite understand how the deck works. I'm not going to proclaim to be like a miracle worker with it or anything like that. I do play the deck a good bit, as I'm sure you can probably tell from the channel. But it is by no means broken. It is by no means indomitable. You don't necessarily need to have anything like that to go. Again, this is just as good a showing as any. You just need to time your negates well, time your destruction well, set your field up to counter it, and if you do that, play conscious of what your opponent can do, and you need to think ahead. Think of that Verte Anaconda play, think of the ordering of the fusion spells. You need to make sure you're aware of what your opponent can do, so that you know exactly what you're doing to put yourself in the best possible position to counter it. So yeah, that's going to do it for this game as well then. So again, 4 very strong duels. We didn't win a single coin toss across any of them, so you can't say it's favoritism or anything like that. So what we're going to do now is jump from here into another look at the deck list. We'll cover off some of the smaller interactions and combos in a little bit more detail, and we'll take it from there. Alright, so here we have it, the final deck list of the deck that carried us to Diamond for this season. I was extremely surprised at how well it performed in every game I played. It really made me want to go back and revisit the original sort of pure Thunder Dragon list to see how exactly it would do. I do feel like it is stronger than this one, The Alistair engine is extremely easy to interrupt in a lot of instances. I would rather just be playing like a third Lupine and maybe the Predaplant engine, but that's just me. But yes, it is extremely strong. So how then does the deck work? So you want to begin your combo usually by banishing a Roar. It's the most consistent way of summoning a Dark. So how would you do that? You have 2 Lupine. So 1, 2. You can banish it off of Alistair the Invoker to fusion summon, although that's not quite as common. So we'll call that 3, half a 1 for each Invoker. So realistically, 2. You're talking about the Aloof Lupine. You can banish it off of your Allure of Darkness, so there's 5. Your Gold Sark, there's 6. Your Instant Fusion and 2 Ready Fusions, there is 9. So you have around 9 plus ways of banishing the Roar from your hand or even your deck. The Lupine and Gold Sark can do it from the deck. Everything else has to do it from hand. So you want to be banishing the Roar. The reason you want to banish a Roar is to summon a Dark. Dark, when sent to the graveyard, will grab a Hawk. How are you sending it to the grave? You're going to link summon with it. You're going to link it with a Thunder monster of any description or a Dark monster of any description. That's going to summon your Union Carrier 90% of the time, sometimes your Verte Anaconda, but usually Union Carrier for the Buster Lock. So once you've sent Dark to the grave, Dark is going to search for your Hawk. Hawk is going to resurrect either your Roar or your Dark. You're going to sacrifice the Roar or the Dark to summon the Colossus. Once the Colossus is on the field, you're going to use your Union Carrier to equip your Buster Destruction Sword thingy onto it. Now your opponent's locked out of searching and they locked out of their extra deck. So 2 big floodgates put on your opponent right off the bat on top of a huge 3600 indestructible monster. So that's a real problem for a lot of decks. And what have you got on top of that? Now you've got the Macabre, you've got the Titan, you've got the follow-up, you've got the Banishment, the Card Advantage, the Super Poly, the Cult by the Grave, the Hand Traps. So your core combo is so brutally consistent in summoning out that Colossus Buster Lock that everything else around it is purely, it's just gravy. Like, it's just bonus points on top of it. The more you can stack on the field, the better. Trying to summon a Macabre earlier into the turn is very strong as well, and it's one of the benefits of the deck that didn't really come up in the gameplay. But Macabre being able to stop Nibiru is huge. Nibiru is here to be drawn in off of Maxi. It's a very strong card. But yes, Macabre being able to stop Nibiru is huge for the deck. Other than it, innate pure Thunder Dragons does not have a native way to deal with the Nibiru. The original Thunder Dragon deck usually has to just simply limit itself to 4 summons, which at times can be painful. It usually means you're just ending on the Colossus Buster Lock, when you could also have a Titan, when you could also have a Macabre, when you could also have a Masquerena. So the Macabre being able to negate the Nibiru is big. Other than that, it plays basically the exact same as Thunder Dragons or as Invoked, as you would expect them to. So I'm not going to sit here, I'm not going to over explain everything to you. Pick it up, play it however you want. What's core to the deck, as I do in every video, this is what is actually core. You don't need 2 of those. You don't need Nibiru, you don't need Call by the Grave, you don't need Super Poly. I love Super Poly specifically to deal with the Destiny Hero Phoenix Enforcer. Excellent card. And this, what you're looking at right now, is what I would believe to be core to the deck. In terms of the extra deck, you can scrap those 2. The extra deck room is tight, I'll give it that. You don't really have a whole load of room in the extra deck to be messing around. That's why I would even consider cutting Super Poly, just because we don't have that much room, but it has come up time and time again. So I'm not cutting it. I think Super Poly is amazing in the current metagame. But yes, this is core. What you build around this for your Invoked Thunder Dragons is completely up to you. If you want just Thunder Dragons, you could even cut these. If you want to build a more consistent version, frees up a lot of room in the extra deck too. But yes, take that information, build it whatever way you want. Any deck that plays lights or darks has an amazing amount of versatility in the metagame. Play it with Chaos Engines, play it with whatever you want. But just play it in a way that makes sure you're seeing actual success. Remember the core combo. Apart from that core combo, you do whatever you want. So that's all I really have to say about the deck. I know this is probably going to end up being a bit of a longer one, so I'm going to wrap it up there, and I'll see y'all in the next one.